welcome to CareLab.
It's CareLab Day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I hope everyone's ready for a good time today because we've got, I think, a really fun show planned with just you and I. It's going to be a surprise for both of us. So neither one of us really knows what's coming here.
Which is interesting. And, when we don't have a guest, we get to be unhinged. So,
Totally.
let's go.
Totally. Yeah. Can I just point one thing out, though, before we get started?
Sure.
I'd like to point out, not for you or our general audience, but specifically for your parents, Brandy, that I am wearing a nicer shirt today.
Oh my gosh, they're probably turning red when they listen to this. Okay, now I gotta tell the backstory that I told my parents listen to the podcast. They give me lots of good feedback. So if the podcast is good, that's because they give us feedback.
Which, by the way, is wonderful. Thank you, Brandy's parents, for listening. I am quite sure my parents don't listen. So, or if they do,
shamed into
or
listening.
if they do, they're not telling me about it for whatever reason. So thank you for listening, Brandy's parents.
But they said that I should dress nicer, and that I should you don't gotta put on nice pants, just at least put on a nice shirt. And I was like, okay, that's fair. I don't have to wear a t-shirt because they always watch on YouTube.
That's funny. Whereas I am usually in some sort of t-shirt or something. But in my defense, it's usually a Higher Standards Caregiver Training t-shirt. Like, that's my work uniform.
Branded. Exactly.
I'm branded. So, But today I put on a button-up, a nicer shirt for you, and I was thinking of y'all as I made that selection. So you're welcome.
Let's see what kind of feedback I get on this when it goes live.
I know. Okay. All right. Should we do this?
Let's do this. Okay. What are we doing?
Okay. So today we have a game show style episode where, of course, since it's just you and me, the only two contestants are you and me.
Is there a prize?
If there is, I'm putting that in your side of the court.
Dang. Okay. There's no prize then.
No. Listen, I didn't think that far ahead. I had an idea. I put it down. We agreed, and here we are. So we do our best work flying by the seat of our pants, though.
I think so.
On CareLab.
Yes.
So, and this is really going to be one of those episodes. So, okay. So here's the premise of our little game show today. So you and I are going to take turns asking each other questions based on very simple scenarios, like a one problem kind of case scenario. And then the other person's job is to answer, okay, who is the correct person or people to call in this situation? Like, who are the experts who can actually help with this? And if relevant, what is something that you should absolutely not do?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
all right.
Doable.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first? Asking. I mean, who wants?
I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go first, asking questions. Yes, let's do that because you came up with the idea. So let's put you in the hot seat first.
Oh my gosh! Now I'm feeling like I've been rude to myself. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's say you're the caregiver for someone, and you are going to try to go out of town, and maybe they live with you or they can't be by themselves, but they also aren't going to go out of town with you for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Who do you call? How do you make that work? How can you get respite?
Okay, so that's a really good question. This is a layered response, right? Partly it depends on, really it depends on what kind of resources are there and available to you. Mm-hmm. But we know that the idea is we have to have someone else who's going to be able to come in and care for that person. So our options are, we can find a community or facility where that person can go stay temporarily for respite care.
Which would be assisted living. Probably.
Could be assisted living, depending on the level of care that person needs. It might even be more like a long-term care type of facility, but it just depends on the level of care that someone needs. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see if there's a place where they can go and stay and get that care, or we can see if there's someone who can come in the home. And that could be either a paid professional caregiver. So it could be a home care agency or a private caregiver that you're hiring to come in for that amount of time. Or it could be a combination of other friends and family or other services that are coming in to help. Really, there are two big questions here. One is what kinds of resources are available to you? So are there financial resources that are available to you that can help you, pay for that professional level of care that someone might need? Or is this something where you're going to need to bring together different aspects of maybe social services in the community, as well as your like your friends and family to help? And then the other aspect of it is, how much care does this person need? Like, those are the two big determinants of exactly how you're going to get this done. I do want to share a couple of good resources to know about if you're trying to pull together respite care. One is particularly if you have limited financial resources, because it can be very expensive, of course, to have someone go and stay somewhere, or to bring professional care into your home for the amount of time that you're leaving, depending on, again, how many hours of care that person is going to need. So if it's someone who has more limited financial resources, then we want to think about calling our local area agency on aging. That's a great place to start for finding low cost or even free respite services. Now, sometimes those lower cost or free respite services, they can't always provide high level hands-on care. But often it is possible to get someone to come into the house and do some, uh, supervision, some help with housework. And really, it just kind of depends on what services are available in your community. So your local area agency on aging is a wonderful resource to call and start finding those services. Also, 311, or whatever your city's version of 311, that is a great place to figure out what resources are available to you. Certainly for respite care, honestly, for just about anything, it's 311's job to know all the things that are out there. So calling them can actually be a great place to start, and saying, okay, this is my problem. Are there any resources in the community that can help with this? That's a great place to start too. If you're a veteran and you are service connected, it is also sometimes possible to go stay at, if you have a local VA hospital that has a community living center, a CLC, it's sometimes possible to go get respite care there as well. So that can be a huge resource. So again, it kind of depends on what your financial resources is, the level of care that someone needs, and some other social connections that you have in the community. What I would tell you not to do, though, is don't give up and say that it can't be done. Because sometimes it feels like it's more work than it's worth to take the vacation or plan, your day off or whatever it is. But you really can't survive forever without that. You have
You
to
need those breaks.
You work so hard to care for this person that you're caring for. Be willing to do a little bit of that work for yourself as well, so that you can take a moment and really have some time for yourself. It's so worth it. So I know it feels like a lot of work. I know that feels overwhelming. But it's one of those things that I would absolutely say, don't give up on it. Don't give up on your vacation. Don't even whatever it is, don't give up. You can find a way to make this happen. I promise. There are services in the community. People in your community. People are more helpful than you think they are a lot of the time if you go and you ask. Not only can you get this done, but your village, you can get it done.
Perfect. Absolutely. I agree.
Great. Do you have anything to add to that? Because I feel like you probably do.
No, I think that was really comprehensive. The only other thing I'd add is that if 311 feels unhelpful because it's a very city-focused service, I think this works everywhere. I'm not sure, but 211 is the United Way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure you can do 211 in any city and get your United Way of Greater Kansas City is at 211 here. And they are a wealth of resources for all of the social services that would exist in your area, including respite care. So I would just throw that into the pot too.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. Okay, are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready.
Okay, I have to look at my notes here because Otherwise, I'll ramble. Okay, what do you do if someone gets diagnosed with a progressive vision disease? So we're talking about something like maybe diabetic retinopathy or macular degeneration, something that's probably going to get worse over time.
Yes. Okay. Outside of see the eye care professional, who I'm sure you just did because they diagnosed you,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you follow up with them. The next thing to think about is how we're gonna manage our everyday life things in order to keep our lives as independent as possible. So the very first person I think I would call is a certified low vision therapist, or a excuse me, let me back up and make it a little bit easier. Find somebody who's low vision certified, and there are multiple types of certifications. An occupational therapist is a great place to start at because we have some baseline knowledge in the first place. And then people who specialize in low vision to help with that treatment. And so that way you can, even if there's nothing actually challenging at that moment, it's really important to have somebody on your team who's going to help you understand what things could be changed and modified so we can maintain our independence, instead of, here's the thing not to do, letting the person waste away and just let their life get smaller and smaller and smaller because there's fewer and fewer things they can do because their vision is continuing to go. There's multiple programs depending on what city you're in order to learn new skills in when your vision has changed as you get older, because it's very common as you get older to have some of these age-related eye diagnoses that are not just like, I need to wear readers, And so um, and the other thing I would say to definitely do is to talk to your person. And that person gets diagnosed. Let's actually talk about what things are hard for you now. Because if y'all went in to get checked, that means they already noticed changes, right? And so that means there's already some deficits, and let's take them head on, especially because they're going to get worse. And you're going to need some solutions that will change over time in order to help manage that. So get help with that. So find an OT, an occupational therapist who's specializes in low vision. And you can message us if you want more direct resources for finding that, because there are lists of those people.
Hey there, it's Emilia. Listen, I am so thrilled to have a great resource like Ask Sammy as part of the CareLab team, and here's why. It's a game changer for aging in place because it makes it so simple. All you do is ask. Just type in your question or even tell Sammy what the problem is and get tailored solutions. Everything from innovative adaptive equipment to comprehensive resources. It's a great way to become more empowered, to live more independently, and to live with greater confidence. And my favorite thing about how Ask Sammy works is it's deeply rooted in dignity and practicality. So whether you're a fellow therapist, a care partner, or someone who's seeking solutions for themselves, visit www.asksammy.com. We're going to link it in the show notes so you can find it there. Start making home more accessible today. Now, back to the show. I really love that answer. I'll just I don't have anything to add on to it specifically, but just like real world stuff. This kind of thing happens all the time. I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten an evaluation order or something like that to go see someone who it's an evaluation to prevent falls because they have this new low vision issue, or and the thought of sometimes the doctors, the family, even the person with a low vision is that their world is going to shrink, right? And there's everything that they can't do, and maybe there's already a ton of stuff that their family has totally taken over for them that really truly, with the right device or the right support or the right environmental modification, they could do it. And I don't claim to be a low vision specialist at all, but I know enough to know how to direct someone to the right resources and how to show them enough to show that there is hope and that they're way more capable than they think. So, and I think vision is one of those areas that it feels like someone losing their vision is just, it's devastating, right? That's
Totally.
devastating. But it is so important to know that it doesn't, is life going to change? Yes, but it doesn't have to be a devastating like your world is over, you sit it alone and you can't do anything kind of event.
Right.
You can still
Right.
participate. People can
Mm-hmm.
still participate and be very successful and independent and highly functional in their lives with
Yes.
low or no vision. We just
Yep.
have to give them the tools to do it. So I love that answer. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, because I know
Mm-hmm.
you are a low vision specialist, right?
Yes, my certification is not up to date, but I still know the knowledge is still in there. Just didn't pay them the money. But
Got
yes, certified low vision therapist.
gotcha. It's got you got to pay him some money for those letters.
To keep those
To
letters.
keep those letters,
So
right?
don't come for me. I know I'm not certified anymore, but I definitely have spent a good part of my career doing that.
Okay. What do you got next for me?
Um.
I'm a
Okay.
little
Yes.
nervous.
So let's see. What should you do if? Let's see which one I'm going to ask you. Okay. Let's say I can tell that my person is not eating well or eating enough. They live by themselves. Let's say they don't live with me. What are some strategies I can do to try to make sure that they're getting enough nutrition?
Okay, I love this question actually. And can I tell you, this was a question that I had on my list to ask you too.
Because this is like real life stuff that we're dealing with on a
it
regular basis.
it
Yeah.
is real life stuff that we deal with on a regular basis, and it's really important obviously for like health, nutrition, but also eating is an important aspect of quality of life for people,
Absolutely.
right? So a lot of times when someone isn't eating, it is assumed it is because they have an appetite issue, right? And of course,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
sometimes that is the case. But a lot of the times it is because there's some access barrier to them eating, whether it is that the environment is, maybe if someone has a cognitive impairment, maybe the environment is too distracting to allow them to focus on eating. If they have a visual impairment, maybe it's that they can't see the food that's in front of them. So we need to make a modification to the way that food is presented, right? Or maybe it's a issue with how do we actually get the food to the mouth. Sometimes it's an issue with taste, etc. So we could go down. I could talk about that all the
Lots of
time.
rabbit
But
holes.
but
Mm-hmm.
the what I'm supposed to be telling you is who you should actually call about this thing. So obviously we want to if someone is not eating and getting proper nutrition, we definitely want to talk to that person's primary care doctor if we have a concern about how much someone is eating. But we don't want to just stop there, right? I really highly recommend having an occupational therapist come on board and take a look at the larger situation. It is highly possible. It's possible that a speech therapist might need to be involved. And I would say the occupational therapist is going to be a good, if you have to have like one person in the door before the other, the occupational therapist is going to be a good person to help flag, okay, I think that we need to get speech involved here, to see
Mm-hmm.
if there is some kind of swallowing issue or if there's an oral motor issue that's making it difficult for this person to eat or to swallow. It's
Mm-hmm.
causing problems or nutritional intake issues. So occupational therapist, absolutely. Doctor, absolutely. Speech therapist, good likelihood that that is going to be a need to. And then also I would say dietitian. I think registered dietitians are really underutilized, great partners in our healthcare system. They're
Mm-hmm.
experts on diet and nutrition, and they can also give really good tips for, okay, so maybe this person has to be on a low sodium diet, or there are certain things that they can't eat because of the medications they're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really common. And
Mm-hmm.
so the dietitian can give you good ideas for how to create an enjoyable diet for someone that is also going to meet their nutritional needs. And help to make sure it's not going to have any kind of like interactions or anything like that. So I would say that those are the, it seems like a simple problem, right? But like talking about
It
it,
has a lot of root causes it could be.
probably four people that there's, I'm going to say at least two to three who really need to be involved in that, and probably more likely four depending on the situation. So what you should not do is you should not assume, again, that it's because this person is not hungry necessarily. And of course appetite can be part of it, but I never want to assume, that it's because
Mm-hmm.
someone's not hungry, because so often I've seen that it's these other issues that really become involved when someone stops eating or doesn't want to eat. Um, and then I guess the other thing I would say, this is sort of tangential. It's not directly related to like if someone stops eating, but the other thing I would say, if you feel like someone is having a problem eating, you don't want to take it in your own hands to like modify their diet on your own. Like if you think someone's having a problem swallowing, if you think someone's having a problem, chewing or whatever, that is really something that you probably need to be working with like the doctor and the speech therapist about, if there's a potential issue with something like that. So that's what I would say. When in doubt, reach out, get help, use your resources. For most problems, there is actually a really great expert out there who knows how
Mm-hmm.
to help solve this problem. The issue is that we're so siloed, it's hard to know who to talk
Who
to
that
and to get
is.
connected with them. So, and that's kind of the purpose of this episode, right? Is like, if you're seeing these problems,
Yep.
here are the people that you can advocate for to actually help you solve a problem. Because there's someone out there who can help you solve
Mm-hmm.
it, who knows all about it. The
Mm-hmm.
the challenge is, how do we get connected with them?
Yeah, and one thing I would just add to that, because that's a very complete answer, is the why behind if you notice that swallowing is part of the problem, that you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't just modify on your own, because the modifications aren't challenging to do, right? You can come up with soft foods or cut up meats or stuff like that. But what you don't want to have happen is there be aspiration happening where there's food still going into their lungs, which causes risk for pneumonia, which is like a downhill spiral a lot of times for people depending on their age and what the rest of their conditions are. And so while the speech therapist might evaluate and just might decide that you need this level of consistency, all soft foods are not the same. And you need somebody to check, because what you don't want to happen is pneumonia. And so that's much more likely than like choking and not being able to breathe. The
Yeah.
pneumonia is much more likely. So, and there's all kinds of reasons why somebody might be less motivated to eat. And so that's why an OT is really important, to help like dive into the bottom of that and like ask questions, or maybe just talk to your person and just ask, because it might be, it's too much work for me to walk over there. I can't stand long enough. My balance is not good enough. I might not be hungry. My taste buds have changed, so the stuff that you've been buying me, I don't really like anymore,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't, they're not enjoyable anymore because my tastes have changed. So there's lots of reasons. So one other thing I would just add is just like talk to the person and like take some time to like ask for real, instead of proclaiming, hey, you need, here's some Ensure, drink this because you're wasting away. Like talk.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The most important part of the care team is the person being cared for, right?
Facts.
um
Mm-hmm.
and you, that person's direct care partner, like y'all are the center of the care team. So we
Mm-hmm.
can't exclude the person who actually needs care from any of these conversations. They have to be central to it and giving their input in whatever capacity they're capable of giving that input in. Like they have to be a part of it. um um, I do want to add a little bit to, because you made me think of something else. Sometimes people also don't want to eat because eating is such a social activity, right? And sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
like eating by yourself or just having food handed to you, like it's not as interesting that way. So anyway, point being, there are so many different reasons that people
Mm-hmm.
stop eating or start eating less, and so it really merits a good conversation and investigation from the right people in order to get down to the bottom of what's going on. And a lot of times we can affect really, really positive change in these situations.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
What you got for me?
Okay. Um, okay. What if the person that I care for keeps sliding out of their wheelchair? What should I do? Who should I call?
Who should I call? Yeah, I should probably not tell you what to do, I guess. Okay. So the
I
person.
mean, you could do a little bit of both. I can't help myself, clearly. I've been doing both.
Here's what I'm going to start with. If this wheelchair was purchased with insurance, you should have a wheelchair provider that gave that to you. And they are your teammate for the next 5 years until it's time for a new wheelchair. And so, if that is how this wheelchair was acquired, you should call that company and tell them that. Because what they'll do is send out a assistive technology professional or a tech or somebody to come and see if they can make some modifications for you to the chair. And there are a few different things that can be done to help modify a chair to make it easier to stay in it. When you make one change, though, it affects something else. And so, what I don't want you to do is to try to make those changes independently without having somebody to like bounce that idea off of, right? So, I'll give a good example.
CareLab listeners, it's Brandy, and as the founder of a platform made to make aging in place easier for everyone, I knew it would be incomplete if we did not have education, especially for caregivers. So whether you're a family caregiver or somebody who trains a whole organization, Higher Standards Caregiver training videos are for you. I'm so proud that we were able to partner together with Emilia in order to provide these to you because they're easy for everybody. You get great occupational therapist-led training on topics like transfers and how to care for someone as they age, or maybe as things change when you have Parkinson's. So no matter if you're the loved one who doesn't know exactly what to do next because things are getting different, or if you're a professional who trains caregivers that go into the community and you need some quality education, you get both from Higher Standards Caregiver Training. And you need to check them out at higherstandardscaregivertraining.com.
Most of the time your wheelchair is sitting at a 90-degree angle like this. This is the back of the chair, this is the seat. And if that chair gets tilted like this by lowering the back axle, then it's a lot harder to get out of the chair or slide forward out of the chair. And that might be the answer, but that also might make it much harder to do transfers. And so you need to talk to a professional about it so you can be assessed and make a decision about what's the thing to do. So that's the first thing I would say. If there's no sticker on the chair and you don't know how to contact that person, I'm going to go back to the old trusty handy OT because we're going to figure that out. And then also get to the root cause of what the problem is for why we're sliding out of the chair, because there could be many. And then an OT can be a great conduit to get to whoever else might be the next right person to help with the situation. Yeah, that's my short answer to what could be a complex problem.
That's a good short and sweet answer. I think can I add just a little bit to that there? Like, just in terms of why it's so important to appropriately address someone's seating system. And like sometimes like a wheelchair is a seating system, right? But like a seating system being the whole thing, like how are we supporting someone's body appropriately for like safety and function? That's how I think of this overall. And if we have someone sliding out of a chair, to your point, there could be a lot of reasons, but absolutely we have to address the underlying problems and make sure that seating system is appropriate for them, because if we don't, there's a risk of falling out of the chair, right? But there's also risk of wounds developing for that person.
Because you're going back and forth like this, sliding all day.
Yeah. And did you know that wounds can develop from the inside out? So even if you are not seeing the wound on the out, like on the skin first, particularly for these kind of wounds where it's like the bones of the pelvis that are rubbing on the soft tissue inside, that wound can actually develop almost from the inside out. And that can happen particularly when like someone's seating system is not appropriate for them. So like the overall impact on health and wellness, but again, also back to quality of life, a good seating system helps support someone's function. It should make it easier for them to participate. It should make it easier for them to do things like feed themselves or brush their teeth or, plant something in the garden or arrange the flowers or read a book. It should make it easier for them to use their hands, their arms, the rest of their body as much as they can. You almost can't like overstate the importance of a good seating system. So yeah. Okay, I'll stop.
So let's get it right. And there's professionals that are specifically for that purpose to make sure that we get that seating system right so it can accommodate them well. The other thing I might also add to this is if it's also important to move. So some of it might be because they're getting weaker and their core is not holding them up as much as they should. And if that's the case, then maybe we need to add physical therapy so that we can improve that core strength and make sure we're as strong as possible. So those would be some solutions to dealing with sliding out of the chair. but it's definitely a concern that you should like deal with. Make it a real issue. It's not like an annoyance. It's an issue, and it should be dealt with. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you brought up like that we can also make the person stronger a lot of the time too, and like maybe that's part of the solution as well. Can I add one other like big do not do this to this one? Because this is something that I have like seen and heard a lot, and enough that it's quite like frightening to me. What we don't want to do if someone is sliding out of their chair, we do not want to strap them in the chair. Like, don't use a gait belt to strap someone into a chair. Applying a seatbelt to keep someone from sliding out of their chair is not going to be an appropriate solution, either for preventing injuries or falls or for any of the other things that are going to go along with that. So, like, go back to what Brandy said. Do that. Strapping someone into a chair is not going to be the appropriate solution if they are sliding out.
I'm going to push back on that a small bit.
Okay.
Because wheelchairs do come with seatbelts. And sometimes it is important that if we, like I said, the core strength isn't as good as it used to be, we can try to strengthen it, or maybe it's going to get worse because of whatever diagnosis. We add support at the hips at the right place on the wheelchair to give that stability. And that might be enough to create stability. I think what she's saying specifically is don't put a gait belt up here to try to keep their back against the backrest so they're not sliding down. Because what can happen is they can slide down and choke themselves and still in that thing, especially if it's not a seatbelt that was made for the wheelchair. If the seatbelt's made for the wheelchair, you should try that because it's there for a reason.
Yeah. I'm not saying that like obviously like seatbelts can be important parts of seating systems again, and obviously like they can be an important part of that seating system. But what I have seen and what I've seen unfortunately a lot is the inappropriate applications of those, and just like going straight to someone is sliding, let's strap them in. And to me, from my perspective, that is an option, but it's part of fixing all of the other things that go along with it too. So it's not the thing that you do. It could be part of the thing that is like the overall solution. But I think, just going like, okay, let's just strap them in there. That is not my first go-to. I would always go back to your original advice first, like, as you said, call the vendor if you know who the vendor is and you got that wheelchair from the vendor, and call an occupational therapist.
Yep. Okay. Should we do one more each?
Let's try. I'll try to be shorter.
Okay. What if you think you need a grab bar installed? Who do you call?
If you think you need a grab bar installed, you should call an occupational therapist.
Not a contractor?
No, you should not call a contractor first. Here's the reason why. Because I like paused there because I couldn't believe you threw me such a softball, Brandy. I was like, there's got to be more to this. No, you should call an occupational therapist first. Contractors, of course, they're necessary in this process. We want to work with good qualified contractors. But the fact is that a contractor, even if they're CAPS trained, they are not healthcare providers who understand both the past, the now, and the likely future that's going to happen for a person. And they can't possibly understand all of the implications for a disease or a disease process, or all of the functional implications for how and why that grab bar may or may not be used, right? That is the job of the occupational therapist. It is to literally see all of those possibilities and apply them to you and your very specific picture, or the picture of everyone in your household, right? Because grab bars are not often used by just one person. Like there's usually more than one person in that household that bar might affect. So it is our job to go and look truly holistically at that situation, both now and how it's going to likely develop in the future, and make the best possible recommendation for you, such that sometimes we might even recommend, actually, I don't think you should have a grab bar here. right?
Exactly.
Sometimes a grab
Yes.
bar is not actually the solution. So call an occupational therapist first. Get that expert to work with you again as a partner to figure out what the real actual best solution is. And then after that, we want to call in the appropriate like contractor or handyman to get the grab bar properly installed for you, if the grab bar is actually what you needed, in that location.
Yep.
That's
it. That's
it.
That's the answer.
That's all I got. Okay. Let me look at another question for you. Okay. Okay. So what do you do if the person that you care for is having trouble managing their medicines? Who do you call?
Ooh, yes. Okay. There are multiple people who can be involved in this situation. The very first person I'm probably going to want you to call is your primary care physician, because it's important that you actually go through all of those meds and see if all of those are still warranted. Because sometimes managing a bunch of meds is easier if you don't have as many to manage, right? Let's just see if we can cut them down some. A lot of times things get prescribed and then nobody ever thinks about, can we come off of it? So if you're having this trouble, then this is a great touch point to be like, let's review the meds. So let's start there. The second thing I would say is then we need to figure out what's the root cause of the problem with managing the medications. Is it vision? Is it coordination? Is it memory? And once we figure out what that is, then we can come up with a tool that will work the best. And I'm saying this in this detailed way to say that, yes, you maybe could do this and problem solve this with your person, but an occupational therapist is set up to do that specific thing, so that we come up with the right set of solutions for your person. Because it's not, I can't give you a blanket answer like buy a pill dispenser, like, sure, that might work, but it depends on what the reason is that managing them is challenging. And so that is what we are set up to do, is to come up with those root cause analysis and come up with the simplest solution for it.
And then, of course, like you said, like that also could involve, right, like phone calls to the doctor, maybe conversations with the pharmacist or whatever it is, right, to see, depending on what those root causes are, like how we can help simplify the situation. But yeah, okay.
And I'll add a small little bit in that, yes, things are prescribed a certain way for a very particular purpose, but with a conversation, you might be able to find some workarounds. For example, if remembering to take them twice a day is too much of a challenge, but they can maybe do it once a day on their own, maybe we talk to the doctor, say, is there any way to change these prescriptions so that they can just take them all one time? Because I'm there every morning, I can help her take them every morning, but I'm not there every night or whatever. The conversation is important because there is sometimes a fair amount of flexibility in this, but that's not safe for you to do on your own. And so you need to have that conversation with the prescribing physicians or the pharmacist to at least understand what could be changed in order to make the situation of taking them easier.
So is that your what's your, but don't do this?
Oh, that's my don't do this. Okay. Don't change them yourself. Don't change what you take or when you take it, when your person takes it, to try to make it easier on your own. It could be changeable, but don't do that on your own because there are very particular reasons for particular drugs. Changing to a once a day setup might mean changing the drug entirely because the drug that you're currently on is set up to be twice a day, and it works a particular way in your body because of that. And that's super important. So definitely do not make any changes to the medication timing or amounts on your own.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Boom.
Boom. Done.
I hope that this was helpful to people.
I hope
and
so too.
If you have more of these scenarios that we can go through, we promise the answer is maybe not always call an OT, but it's the answer a lot of times because we are awesome and we're here to solve these problems. That's literally what our job is. But we put some other professionals in there too, so we're not 100% biased. But yeah.
Well, and I do hope this episode was helpful. Like Brandy said, if you have a particular question or scenario, definitely put it in the comments. We are happy to address that as often and as well as we possibly can. If you made it all the way to the end of the episode, please make sure you are liking, subscribing, leave us a review, share a comment. Those are the best ways to make sure that other people who could benefit from the information, who might just think it's fun to listen to the podcast, can actually find the podcast. So take a moment
Exactly.
to do that right now. And we will see you next time right here on CareLab.
Bye.
Bye.